Well, getting things kicked off here this week. I know this weekend we got the first major snowfall event of this season for a lot of folks, especially here in the Midwest. But before we get to that, new month, let's kind of go over, where we kind of been on the soil moisture side of things and how, this weekend snowfall is going to impact that as well as moving into what we could see here for the short term.
Yeah, that snow kind of snuck through here. And the map I'm drawing this on is the November precipitation ranks. So what's amazing is even with all that moisture that we got in that snow, there's 8 to 10 inches of snow across a big section of the Midwest. We're still quite dry, very dry in the southeast, not the Southwest. The Southwest had in the month of November repeated cutoff lows that did this. But the reality is we didn't make too big of a dent in our national drought picture. It was something like 70% of the country still in some form of drought. And remember, the forecasts going back to the beginning of this month look something like this. So this is what the November outlook from our major models look like. And I got some of this right, but certainly didn't get the end of the month right. And I really mean that for much of the Northwest in this area that was forecast drier. Now, first 2 weeks, sure, nailed it. Look at that. That was the prediction for the first 2 weeks of November, but the end of it really made a big turn. So you mentioned soil moisture. The issue right now is there is snow sitting on top of all of this. So that ground is insulated. It's probably right at about 32 degrees. And we need a major warm up to come through this area to melt that snow. I've got good news for the southeast. There's a bunch of rain coming down there. But the reality is the water that eventually flows into the Mississippi is wanting. And if you know right now where the Mississippi River is, it's 1.26 feet below low stage. A year ago, just have a look at this. A year ago, we were doing lots of recovery in December. And I wonder if this December is going to look the same. To do that, we've got to change this temperature pattern. This is not what you want. You don't want warm west, cold northeast. You know why? The flow goes through like that. We need warm east, cold west to get the flow to do that. That would cure all drought problems. I'd never have to talk about it again. We would also hate winter because it would be crazy, but that's what needs to happen. Now, notice the effect of keeping it warmer here, allowing that cold air to come out. This is how the Thanksgiving weekend panned out. It's one of the colder Thanksgiving weekends we've seen in a while. And as you know, we got some snow. And there's that main corridor of snow right in through here. So a lot of the Dakotas getting to southern Minnesota into Iowa, big chunk of Iowa picking up 8 to 10 inches of snow. A lot of Illinois did as well. Huge lake effect event. This was a beast of a snowstorm. I'm pretty excited to see it come through because it did bring moisture. But to be honest with you, we were picking up like 0.5 to 0.8 of an inch of liquid equivalent, right? So it's not like we got a good 2-inch soaker, which would all of a sudden really revive this soil moisture problem we've got here. So we got another system on its way. If you look right now, we've got winter weather advisories. They do clip parts of Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, southern Iowa, big chunk of Illinois, all of Indiana, then east. And it's also going to be bringing in some ice, I think, down here farther to the south, coming out of Oklahoma into Arkansas up toward the Delta. Big snows in the northeast out of this. And here it is. It's not much. It doesn't look like much on the simulated radar. But that's through 4 o'clock this afternoon. And Dawson, I'm trying to get to Chicago to fly out to Montana. And I'm just like, hold off. Just don't get there yet. But as this snow comes through, we'll take a look at the amounts in a few moments. The system really gets together in the northeast. It's kind of our first nor'easter of the year. There you can see it going through. And behind a little clipper comes through the northern plains into, the Great Lakes as we work our way toward the middle of the week. Also getting some much needed snow here in the front range up toward the high plains of Colorado. So how much snow? Well, we can add it up. My color bar flips over to 4 inches in the blues. So you can see this is a 2 to 3 inch snowfall event through here. Good snows, though, on the front range. You can definitely see it coming to West Virginia, which is very dry, getting into the northeast. Maybe a lot of snow in Massachusetts. Got to watch out for that. But as I mentioned, there's some ice in this as well. And that's in parts of Oklahoma. There you go, Arkansas. Maybe getting over to parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, but definitely as the cold air dams up against the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, just quick look at the snow. This is what we've got total from the GFS in the eastern half of the country. That's what I've got from the ECNWF. So much, much more calm amounts compared to what we saw from the previous system. And it is important to note that out west, good snows come into the Rockies. There's some, we need it for the Colorado Basin, but this is not a big snowy week for the Western Mountains at all. And we'll have to wait until the flow gets a little bit better. By the way, I did add something to ag weather. If you go to this ag weather looks like this. If you go to the website, click on weather maps right here, scroll about halfway down, and you'll see all of my snow maps all stacked up. So you can go look at them anytime you want. If you're a snow junkie, there they are. Okay, big story we're going to see relatively dry conditions move into a big chunk of the Canadian Prairie Midwest, Mid-South, also getting into the plains. Wet here helping to cure drought. Wetter conditions coming into the Northwest. Why? The jet is doing this. See that? Deep lows here and here. The jet's going to come over the top. And the problem is, if you draw air out of the Canadian Prairie, you only get like clipper-like systems, and it's colder and drier. Some of this flow could come into the Northwest, but it's going to be anchored around very deep cold that's going to be sitting over the Hudson Bay. That's going to be the mainstay of the story, is the Hudson Trough. So when we look out there over the next 2 weeks, California is drier, and there it is. The plains through the Mid-South and Midwest are drier. There's your clippers. See them coming through? That's what the next couple of weeks looks like. Temperature-wise, watch this. That's your next 5 days. I've got 2 major shots of cold air coming through us, Dawson. This is day 5 through 10, and what's interesting is to see that Alaska is in on the cold, and so is the eastern half of North America. That's rare. Normally, if Alaska goes cold, this goes hot. But right now, all the heat is trapped into the western states, and that's how it looks all the way out there to the mid-December timeframe. So I want to show you really quickly what this looks like in terms of precip. Let's just watch it. There's the system going through today and tomorrow to the northeast. The clippers that follow, some snow in the front range. That is a big dome of high pressure that's going to make it brutally cold come the end of the week. Get ready for that. I'll show you in a minute. Then what do you see? Well, there's just systems sneaking through here because the front is too far south, cutting off the moisture. So just look at it. Can you just kind of watch the flow? There it is. And that's what's setting us up over the next 2 weeks to make this the snowy corridor. This is the probability of getting 3 inches over the next 10 days, okay? And the wet corridor is way down here and in the northwest. This is the probability of over an inch of liquid equivalent. They need every drop in the south. They need every bit of moisture in the northwest. But we're going to be left, look at this. Who's got the best chance at staying under 1/10 of an inch? That's very dry in the plains. 1/2 inch, it now shows you a much broader area that's not picking up much moisture. And we look out there farther and we say, yep, it's going to get windy with this. Look at how strong these winds might be over the next 7-8 days. But the concern is you get out there into week 2 and all of the models are kind of hinting at the same pattern. I'll bring up the Euro as an example. There's a lot of dryness here, a lot of dryness in California, and all the wetter, snowier weather is to the north, okay? Frost risk, yeah, no surprise here with all the cold air coming through. The frost risk might get all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Watch this, man. Here's today's high temperatures. Tomorrow moves east. Watch Wednesday, the cold air coming into the Dakotas. That's Thursday morning. Forgive me. That's Thursday afternoon. That's the high temperatures. The morning temperatures on Thursday look something like that, -10. So are you ready? I'm telling you, Dawson, like it's going to get cold where you are. But, you know, I'm going to be watching for anything that in December could give us a thaw. And as I go out there, there's your next 5 days. There's day 5 through 10. I think we got that pattern down. Now watch. Beyond this, do you see that warmth trying to spread out of the plains? I have to watch mid-December carefully to see if we can get just a brief, I just need 4 or 5 days of above freezing air to melt this snow and get it into the soil. And that would help with the original question you asked me, how do we get rid of this? So that's my next 2 weeks, Dawson.
Yeah, we're definitely getting in the period of, I mean, we already had some wider temperature swings, you know, in the back half of November, kind of with, but it wasn't like these big temperature dives. So it's definitely getting into the time of the year when we're diving into these really cold conditions.
Yeah.
Like what you brought up on Thursday. For the long range, though, before we start recording, you mentioned that we got some updated outlooks from the government. Kind of what are they seeing, and how are you mixing that up with kind of your longer term outlook for what we can expect, again, with going along with the idea of maybe fighting some of this low soil moisture?
Yeah, so this is December 13th through the 26th, right? I like what they do with the temperatures. I think this is real. There's a lot of evidence for that. I am curious if the dryness might need to be expanded further into this area, or, to be honest, if our little clipper track just keeps delivering in this area. But you got to remember, clippers just don't bring in humid air. You got to open the Gulf for that to happen, and I don't see that taking place. The government also updated, this is the CPC, updated their forecast for all of December, and now you start to see that risk area. Now, I'm just going to tell you something. We could blow this out of the water after the middle of the month. I do see this coming. I do see this coming in the next 15 days. But I think after that, we could really start to work against this. I think there's more to this pattern later in the month of December that could start to return flow that does this at some stage. It's not your best, southwest megastorm flow, but there is at least a component out of the west from this, which means when I fly to Montana later today, I'm gonna have to tell them, don't buy fully into this just yet. And the last thing the government updated was their seasonal drought outlook. Now, what did they change? They had this whole region through the end of winter staying in drought, and now they're talking about drought improving. Now, I hope they're right. I mean, everybody hopes they're right. But they've only left the southwest into western Texas. So there's a lot of cotton grown here. They've left over in the, hey, drought's going to persist this winter area. So those are the three big maps they updated. Let's add to it. One, see this right here? This is fun. We came out of the basement in global momentum in mid-October, and in November maintained average, and now we've shot up. That is why the end of November started to get active. We finally got flow back in the pattern. But the loss of all of this low momentum means that I think La Nina is just about done. Now, we're swinging through the MJO phases, 781, just briefly, but we're swinging through the phases that suggest we're going to hang on to some cooler temperatures. But the models lose this signal in the month of December. That's all that this graph shows. It's not a very strong mid to late December forecast time period. So what I'll be watching is this. I'm going to outline for you here everything that's in blue, right? See all that? And what is that? That means if you line it up with the map on the bottom, that right in through the Hudson Bay to the North Atlantic, there's going to be troughing, which means ridging to the west, which means the cold air and flow will likely come through the middle where I just drew that arrow. See that? That may be the way that more of December pans out. That's at least one thought about all of this. Helping it along is the weakest polar vortex I've seen in December, this early December. And even though it's going to try to recover, the average forecast keeps it well below normal in strength. And our polar vortex is a mess right now. So, all right, that's a lot of nerd speak and weather jargon to get you to this. This is the new outlook for December. You can see the forecast is trying to come over a ridge here, bringing moisture into this area, exiting through the Great Lakes. There's a front that's going to trap the moisture from the Gulf from getting into this region, which is why we think through the next 2 weeks it's going to be drier here. Okay? But as I play it forward through mid-January, that high moves out, okay? Flow comes around and like that. And it suggests that, one, it won't be as brutally cold compared to average, but we're going to open up the Gulf, I think, to some better moisture transport here and bring in better moisture to the west. That's what everything I just told you means, I think, okay? So that means watch for transition in the month of December, about the midpoint. First half of December may look entirely different from the second half of December. So that all brings me now to one last thing on this long range. We have lost the Indian Ocean dipole signal. Remember how we talked about how negative that was? That's gone. La Nina is starting to reach its peak. It's allowing the MJO to make this full run all the way across its normal phases. But take a look at this. One of the measures we use to figure out what's going on with La Nina is an index called the Southern Oscillation. And when it's really high, there's a big La Nina. It peaked just before Thanksgiving, and it has been dropping ever since. Once it gets down below 7, we are in INSO-neutral conditions. And I think we're going that way by the time we get to the end of December. So the bigger picture here, Dawson, is I don't think that what we just saw in November into December is going to be on repeat for January, February, March. It's probably going to change considerably. And the only thing I care about with all of it is what does it do to this? So that is my long-winded explanation of telling you two things. One, we see things changing. Two, we're not sure what that means, but we can at least tell you based on historical precedent what it could be.
Definitely a lot going on in terms of what to be looking out for those changes. Switching gears again, though, to South America, has much changed down there. They're finishing up their planting. Their corn is pretty much done. Soybeans pretty close down there, too, as well. How's the weather shaping up down there?
Well, you've got a big chunk of the Cerrado that's looking at what, 5% to 50% of normal precip? Big chunk of northern Argentina that's dry. And the models have not done well at all predicting this. European model said this was going to be wetter than average during the month of November. Nope, didn't happen. And we look at all of that and say, well, what are the models saying now? Well, the European's still on it. See how wet it is in here? It's still calling for dryness there, but it's saying, no, rains are coming. GFS says, I think it's more of a mixed bag. And you say, what model do you lean on? This one right now. It's been doing better. So I would just say that I think there are some areas that have not gotten adequate precipitation. The NDVI analysis of Brazilian crops is not showing major stresses, though. It's just not. It's because we're talking about soybeans. It's like us talking about our soybeans in May. Well, did they
Hmm.
come out of the ground? Did they look okay? And how much rain are they going to get in about 40 days? And that's what we're going to worry about is the January precipitation. And at this stage, if there's any sort of a risk area in January, in fact, let's just go look at it real quick. We'll go to Weather Bell, South America precipitation. Now, remember, this is what the Euro always says. It's like, oh, really wet. But if we go out there farther, man, this says maybe through mid-January, we're going to stay wetter here, a little drier farther in Argentina. But if this really happens, guess what this might mean? This could mean that as we get to the midpoint in January, our soybeans are staying greener longer. It may mean a delay in harvest. So I don't know. If you're going to root for something, well, if the rains come on, keep them on. Just keep it going, 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 going. Rather than the more variable rainfall precipitation patterns, which can be beneficial to the crop. So Dawson, I just think right now that we're in like model la la land and they don't know what they're talking about. They're way too heavily influenced by some factors I don't think are as strong as advertised. I mean, that's the GFS forecast through January 4th. Look how much drier it is. So I wouldn't trust anything. We're going to just have to base everything in South America off of reports and just see the quality of the crop going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we to continue to go back to, increasing acreage down there, it's going to
Yeah.
help keep production high. But in terms of yields, it kind of seems like we're getting to that point to where we could start to see some yield impacts. Of course, again, those reports do have to come in
Yeah.
to kind of confirm that note. Right, though, right now, all we can do is just assume.
Yeah. And again, that's all I think the market's going to care about. It's going to go, yeah, you're showing me these things, Eric, but all I really care about is January or late December.
Mhm.
And if it rains during that time frame, we tend to do better. But that's all I got. I think that's where it's going to sit until there's some sort of concrete evidence and report that there's a problem. We can't make big assumptions.
We're going to keep watching out for those factors here moving forward. Hopefully, people don't have to suffer too much with the cold coming up this week too, as well. So hopefully, we can get some better temperatures back in soon, to where, especially getting a lot of that snow melted in the ground here too, moving forward.
That would be my wish. So we'll
All
see.
right. Well, always appreciate your insights, and thank you again for this week, Eric.
Yeah, talk to you later.